Ciao everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Superhuman podcast. I am your host, Renato Capasso, and together we will talk about the latest biohacks and scientific discoveries that will turn you from a human into a superhuman. And it all starts now. Hello, my dear biochem friends, and welcome to this new episode of the Superhuman podcast. In this episode, I'm interviewing Shawn Wells, the world's greatest formulator. That's a huge title. And in this episode, we're going to talk about all sorts of things. We're going to start with Shawn's story. I'm usually very practical when it comes to backing stuff, and I just want to go right away on the stuff that works. But I purposely decided to interview Shawn on his story because I think it's a great source of inspiration for many. At least it was for me, and I'm sure it's going to be a font of inspiration for you as well. Then during the episode, we're going to talk about autoimmune diseases and keto. And we're going to touch that while talking with Shawn about his story and how he turned his health from, I'll say from 0 to 1, right? From for the better. Then we're going to talk about the importance of patented supplements and why those are so important. And a little bit about the scam around certain supplements, right? Do all supplement works and how you should use your supplements? Why is it important to cycle certain supplements and certain herbs? We're going to talk about Ashwagandha and REM sleep and all sort of stuff. So please stay tuned and follow the episode until the end. And also have a look at the show notes because Shawn, on his website, shawnwells.com, just came out with a new guide, a new book called The Energy Formula. So I can't recommend that enough. It's a great book. And in general, you should go to Shawn Wells' website because the amount of amazing content, if you go on his website and then click on guide, the amount of content, the guides that he has created, he has a guide for that talks about gluten, one that talks about anti-nutrients is a huge topic, which I love it. So go and check it out and check his new book. But for now, sit down and enjoy this amazing episode with Shawn Wells. Well, thank you very much for making this. I really appreciate it, and I had to tell you, I'm super excited. My Oura-ring heart rate while I was sleeping was like 10 times more than my usual heart rate, and this morning before the interview, I was literally freaking out. I said, okay, let me enhance something. Like I smell rosemary oil. I use blue lotus oil. Coffee with L-theanine, everything possible to be ready for the interview. So yeah, I'm really happy that you made time for this.
Cool. Well, I'm glad that you're excited and glad to do it.
Well, yes, I have so many questions for you. I'll try to fit them all in this interview. But I'd like to start with your story because it's truly inspiring. And then I'm gonna tell you later, like I self-identify myself a little bit with your story. Your bio is huge, but I'm just gonna probably start saying one of the first thing that impacted me, and is the title, like the world's greatest formulator. And that's a big title, but there is way more than that. Like you are a physician and you love doing formulation and supplements, easier things. But before we start, would you like sharing with the audience a little bit more about your story?
Sure. It's really a story of healing and redemption, and it's kind of the hero's journey that I'm really proud of myself about, because I was one of those kids that was last picked for every sport team, that was laughed at all through school. I remember crying many nights at home, and kids made fun of me because I was very overweight. I not only was overweight, but I had big legs and a big butt, and it was relentless. I mean, people would call me fat fuck, fat ass, all this stuff. And that had me just going further down that rabbit hole of just junk food and self-soothing.
Yeah.
And I didn't get attention from girls. I wasn't the cool kid in class. I was pretty funny, but I was funny because of, self-deprecation and trying to connect
Yeah.
and not be hurt so bad. And so I also was pretty good at school, which helped obviously, but it was tough. And my home life was not easy either. And my two brothers ran away very young, and so I struggled quite a bit. Struggled with self-esteem, struggled with really having my own identity, and I just felt like a joke, like I wanted to be anyone but me.
Wow.
And I got into a really good business school because I was told that's what I need to do is business. And I really didn't have any idea of like chasing my dreams at that time. Like there wasn't the Oprahs and Tony Robbins and Instagram influencers, and you're just told like do something realistic, go make money.
Yeah.
And anything that sounds even remotely like a dream is stupid. And that's what I was told by my father. That's what I was told by my teachers. That's what I was told by everyone. So I went to a business school, and I was pursuing that. But a couple of years in, creatine had come out, and I was like, getting on protein and creatine and working out and seeing, benefits and gains. And my body started leaning out. And for the first time, I was getting attention from girls. I was starting to play basketball and feeling like that was great. And I went to my doctor in between my sophomore and junior year, and he saw how passionate I was.
Mm-hmm.
And I was telling him, like, this is the coolest stuff. Like, I love these magazines. I can't get enough of these books. I'm spending hours in GNC, like, reading the labels. I expected him to laugh at me. Because, again, to this point, no one ever really encouraged me for anything. And he drew out this lifeline. I was 20 at the time, and he said, and it was between 20 and 80, and he said, why not be happy between here and here?
Yeah.
And that was a game changer for me, and it changed my whole life path. It gave me permission. This was a medical doctor telling me essentially to chase my dreams. And it wasn't like some, hippie guy like saying, bro, like you should go like do that thing you love. It was a guy who's really respectable to me at that time. And the power of words are just absolutely incredible. If you don't think that you can literally change someone's life path with the words that come out of your mouth, you're wrong. Because in the same way, when I finished up my degree at Babson in marketing and IT, I ended up wanting to get my prerequisite classes so I could get a master's at UNC Chapel Hill, which was my dream school for nutrition. And I talked to this guidance counselor at UNC Greensboro. My parents were down in North Carolina, so I could go in state.
Mm-hmm.
I was deeply in debt, and I was going to have to put all this on my credit card, and it was just a crazy dream. But I told this guy about, trying to knock all these science classes out as quickly as I could. It was going to be 26 credit hours a semester of sciences. And he just laughed at me. He's like, you're a business student. You're going to fail, and you'll fail miserably. And he told me, you're not even in that good a shape.
Wow.
And I left his office crying, feeling like someone stole my dream, what I had spent the last 2 years working on in my head. And I wanted to kill myself. And I had a bottle of vodka and a bottle of pills, and that was my plan.
Wow.
Luckily, I did not. And I decided that night that was going to strengthen my resolve. that I was going to do this thing, even if I had to put it on a credit card, even if I had to work 24 hours a day. I was going to get into Chapel Hill. I was going to ace these classes. And I did put everything on the credit card, and I crushed it in record time, straight A's. I thought of that guy every single day. So he's a part of my story too. Luckily, I didn't, take my life. He strengthened, like maybe I wouldn't have even made it through without him, interestingly. I mean, everyone's a part of the story. Because every time someone asked me, like, hey, you want to go out drinking? You want to go party? You want to go do this or that? I was like, nope, I'm focused, man.
Yeah.
And so I did get in Chapel Hill. And, but I was pushing so hard at that point and still lacking the self-esteem, even though like I was getting in better shape, that my body shut down on me. And I had a host of autoimmune issues. I ended up getting Epstein-Barr, also known as mono, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, Hashimoto's. I had strep throat. I couldn't get out of bed for about 6 months. I was in pain and inflamed, and again, thought about killing myself.
How old were you at the time?
And at this time, I was in my mid-20s.
Okay. Wow. So...
And I thought life was over. And I ended up like digging into some message boards and finding the ketogenic diet. And I read about some books on it too, the ketogenic diet for the practitioner, and a bodybuilding book called, it was by Dan Duquesne. From EAS, but I'm trying to think of it. Body Opus was the name of the book. Okay. And it was about keto for bodybuilders. And so I was reading all this stuff and then digging in online, and I was finding that people that had autoimmune issues were having some luck with it. So I tried it, and amazingly, I was like out of bed. I was going back to school. I was feeling like really good. And it was just a game changer for me. So I'm like bouncing all the way back and seeing what this can do for me. And again, this just strengthened my resolve of like, wow, like what I've done to heal myself, I can do with other people.
For others. And
this became my purpose. Like, the healing that I needed from low self-esteem, from being overweight, from being sick, from autoimmune issues, from having low energy. Now that became my purpose. And about 8 years ago, when again I was pushing too hard, I was the director of R&D at Dymatize, and I was working probably 70, 80, 90 hours a week because it was my dream job. But I was just going way too hard, long days, and I ended up getting a brain tumor.
Oh,
and,
wow.
I was kind of on and off with keto at that point. Like sometimes I would just be so overwhelmed, I'd just take whatever's around, out of the vending machine or whatever.
Yeah.
It still wasn't convenient at that point. There wasn't all the snacks and recipes and things that there are now. And again, at that point, I'm like, whoa, I need to really start putting my life in perspective and my health in perspective, and not just serving other people and not just driving for achievement, but I need to be showing up as my best self so that I can give my best. And I had lost perspective of that. So I ended up doing all the things, the biohacking, the intermittent fasting, keto, paleo, working with an allergist on different things, looking at the blood work and just putting my life together, working out every day as part of my schedule, de-stressing. So that's my health journey, and it's been an amazing one. And then most recently, this past year, I've really been digging into plant medicine and therapy, working on some of that past trauma, working on really building back my self-esteem and trying to love myself and be proud of myself and not be so driven for achievement, not grinding through life anymore, where you're breaking yourself down, where you're, grinding is not where you want to be. Like hustle and grind is the wrong message. That's sympathetic nervous system and ultra sympathetic nervous system.
Yes.
Hustle and flow, cool. Like get to your flow state where you're in your parasympathetic and you're loving life and you're manifesting life. But heads down grinding, that's not where you want to be. And I've done that long enough, and I've achieved enough things, and it's time to take care of myself. And when I do, I can show up as the best version of me and take care of people around me better too. So those are lessons I've learned. That's my health journey. That's my story. So,
Shawn, well, first of all, I really want to thank you because I can imagine it's not easy to share it, but it's great. The fact that you're sharing this, not just through this podcast, but also on your website and your channel and other interviews, should make you proud. And I'm sure you are, because everyone who is listening this can be truly inspired in so many ways. First of all, I really believe that nobody, even people that sometimes are close to you, is entitled to tell you what you should do and what you should not do. And the fact that you've done, you follow a certain path in the past, that should not define yourself. Like, you said you were studying economy, and then you wanted to switch to another career path. That first journey that you did is not a label. And career switching, this is an important topic for a lot of people, because a lot of people maybe have a lot of enthusiasm when they start a certain journey. Then they just change their mind, or they change passion, or they found their true passion after. But sometimes they've been held back by the beliefs that because they've done something in the very beginning, they cannot change anymore. And that doesn't apply. That applies for any age, either you're 20, 30, 40, 50 and onwards. So that's a very inspiring message. And allow me to say it really touched me, because in some ways I self-identify myself in a lot of ways. And I'm sure a lot of people who are listening and a lot of people in this world have a similar, in their own circumstances, but a similar journey, especially when it comes to self-healing in a way or another. Thank you so much for sharing that. And that's why, before the interviews, I saw your bio. I knew you a little bit because, I'm in the space, but I saw your bio and I said, I really love to start this interview with this story because it's an inspiration, and you should be proud of yourself. I know you are, but, we should say more positive. People should learn to not give it for granted that people know what they're doing well. I'm in this belief in professionally and in relationships. You always should share with people what you think. And I think you should be proud of yourself, and we need more people like you in this world. So really, thank you. And I speak for myself. You inspired me. So thank you very much.
I appreciate it.
No worries. And trust me, I really, really mean it. So thanks. Well, I have so many questions for you today, because especially for supplements and supplementation, I want to start with that, because I really believe it is a topic where there is so much information out there, but there is also so much misinformation. And I think that the danger is with supplementation in general, I'm just going to be very generalistic here, is that, there are so many components. Some brands actually, they don't put in the capsule what they're displaying, or some others do, or maybe some type of supplements, they need a certain care. Some may deteriorating, after you open the bottle. There are so many components and the end line could be that some people may read some benefit of supplement X, but maybe it's the wrong brand and they treat the supplement the wrong way. and it doesn't work, or they maybe have leaky gut and they cannot absorb nutrients, and then it doesn't work, and they believe, okay, this stuff doesn't work, and maybe something that could be very healing for them and very good for them, they just assume that that stuff doesn't work. So I like, what's your view on this? Do you believe, like me, that there is a lot of misinformation about supplements out there?
100,000,000%. It's very frustrating for me as someone who's built my life off of supplements and has healed myself on many levels on supplements. And, I have been called the world's greatest formulator. I have formulated over 500 products. I have patented 10 ingredients. I believe deeply in this. Otherwise, I'm a fraud. And it's frustrating to me to see all these companies putting out misinformation. It's frustrating to me to see companies putting out bad products.
Yeah.
But it's also frustrating to me to see the medical and pharmaceutical industry like disparaging so many supplement ingredients. I mean, Dr. Fauci said, yeah, maybe vitamin D is okay, and you could take some vitamin C if you want. Doesn't really do a whole lot. And then he said, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Really?
I heard that one.
Really, like that's it. Like vitamin D in all the research is almost like the anti-COVID. Vitamin C in large doses, like especially in like IV doses, like 5 to 50 grams, like would wipe anything like that out. But beyond that, to not mention other things that can affect the immune system, like zinc and lysine and polysaccharides from mushrooms and AHCC from mushrooms and ergothioneine from mushrooms. There's so many immune ingredients. Uno de gato, monolaurin, which comes from coconut oil, C12. There's so many things that have great data. It's just an insane and frustrating statement like someone could make, like reckless, like when it's your job to advise people and we're all waiting on a vaccine and thinking that vaccines and masks will save us. And I'm not even disparaging those things. I don't think those are necessarily bad, and they can certainly obviously be helpful, but it's shameful to not talk about exercise. It's shameful to not talk about insulin sensitivity and, taking things that can help with insulin sensitivity like berberine or dihydroberberine. It's crazy to not talk about not only getting vitamin D as a supplement, but getting out in the sunshine. It's crazy to not talk about having healthy exercise and de-stressing. To not do grounding and get fresh air. It's crazy to me to not talk about these things. And what about deep connection? We know that like loneliness and isolation are killers. Killers. Fear lowers the immune system by 50%. And we're telling people to isolate and hide and stay in your box and wear your mask. And we're not telling them all these other things that can enrich their life during this time, that can make them healthier, that can make them more resilient, that there is tons of data on. I'm not talking about homeopathic medicine. I'm not talking about, something that's like, crazy ideas of, extrapolated theories on quantum mechanics or something. I'm talking about stuff that has tons of data.
Yeah.
And so for him to not talk about those things, it shows you where the agenda is, both politically and monetarily.
I totally agree.
There's an agenda. And it's very frustrating to me. So, but when you look at these things, how do you trust like the information out there when companies are lying to you so they can make profits, politicians are lying to you, the medical industry is lying to you, and so it's very hard to find information that you can trust. And I feel like that is my purpose on this planet, is to provide that information that you can trust. And hopefully people do trust me.
Thank you for sharing these things. And honestly, I've been told not to talk about this stuff, but to be honest, I don't care, because I think everyone should be free of telling what they think, especially when it's backed by data. And for me, it's mind-blowing that 80% of people who have adverse symptoms through COVID, they are vitamin D deficient. And you need to go somewhere in the internet and pick this information. Like, why is it not readily available? And, plus everything that you said before. So to be honest, I'm very upset about all this situation. And the other things that make me very, very upset, and I'm going to go a bit wider here, but is I consider myself lucky by the fact that I started doing my research a few years ago. I'm not sure if you know, but like we now don't even have like freedom on research. I'm talking about search engines and so on. Because the algorithm now, since a few years, have been changed in a way that people like, for example, Dr. Mercola, they've disappeared completely from the search engine, including YouTube. And this is, for me, is crazy, because I don't see any difference between, the classic mass media where people just watch the television and they take information in, to the false thought that people are doing their free research, where this research is not free anymore. Like if you type a word on Google and I don't know, natural remedy for, like those search results have been, they are fake. Like it's like, yeah. So it is very frustrating, and that's where I mean. When I said we need more people like you, I meant exactly this. We need more people like you to say all those stuff, because people really need to hear another version, especially if it's backed by science. So thank you very much for bringing that up. So you talked about, it's curious about vitamin C, right? So you said that especially intravenously, it works better. Why is that? Do you reckon it's a problem of absorptions, or if you take it through supplements?
Yeah, well, it becomes pretty caustic to the gut.
Okay.
You have GI distress. If you get above maybe a couple grams, it just becomes not feasible. You would have severe diarrhea. So you can do a liposomal vitamin C and get into some higher doses and get better bioavailability. You could probably get like 5 grams or something reasonably. But to get like kind of the massive doses, you really need to go intravenously, go straight into the plasma. So that would be ideal if you can go like 5 grams all the way up to, like I said, 50 grams. I think 25 would be reasonable to do with COVID concerns, flu concerns coming up this winter. That's certainly an effective dose related to cancer as well. But a lot of the things that we could do with cancer would be ideal for the immune system in general. Doing IV vitamin C, doing hyperbaric oxygen chamber therapy above 2 atmospheres, maybe a couple, like, for several straight weeks, like a couple times a week. Doing whole food, certainly paleo style eating, getting rid of sugar, getting on your circadian rhythm with good sleep hygiene and a consistent wake time. Your eating window ideally is intermittent fasting, but also during the daylight, like with Dr. Satchin Panda's data. So like maybe doing like, if you're doing an 18 and 6, like or 16 and 8, like where you don't eat for 16 hours and then you eat for 8 hours. I think having a window like 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. would make sense. So some of these things, and then working on yourself and your mental resilience, doing things like gratitude journaling and daily affirmations and breath work and stretching and just de-stressing, taking time out, like during your work, like every hour, taking that break, taking the eye break, taking the breath break, walking away from your computer, taking walks and listening to music, listening to podcasts, doing things that enrich your life is going to enhance your resilience. And that resilience means that you're harder to kill. The more resilient you are, you're harder to kill. So these viruses can actually be of benefit to you. Pathogens can be of benefit to you, just like going to the gym. You're strengthening your immune system. There was a story in the 70s about the boy in the bubble, that he had no immune system, so he had to stay in the bubble. It's like, but if he got any type of pathogen, he could die. And we don't want to be the boy in the bubble. We want to go live life. And there's a reason that animals can eat their own poop and drink out of the lake and, do all this stuff, because they are resilient. They don't worry if, food hit the ground. They don't worry about being exposed to other people. They are super resilient. And they also don't play out stories of self-loathing. They just be. They don't have like all this negative loop of like all this, I hate myself and I'm no good and I'm not beautiful and I'm not talented and I'm going to fail at that. Animals don't have that. That's another reason they're resilient. We have that. If anyone in our life talked to us like we talk to us, you wouldn't be their friend. So, you need to change your self-talk. And those are the lessons I'm learning this year, is changing my self-talk, changing the stories. Instead of being the victim, I actually have a hard time kind of telling my story anymore, not because I'm so traumatized by it, but I'm trying to actually move past it.
Yeah.
That was me for a long time. For a long time I was the victim. Then I felt like I was the hero dealing with that trauma, but now I just feel like it's another life.
Yeah.
And I'm past it. And instead of telling the story of the victim to yourself, tell the story of the hero. Like, change your story, change the dialogue. If you want to live like your best life, then you have to change that dialogue and stop saying like, oh, well, I guess that figures. I don't care. I guess that's the way it is. That sucks. All that talk is garbage. It needs to be, this is amazing. Life is happening not to me, but for me. That everything is on my path for a reason. I either win or I learn, which means I win or I win.
Yes.
And it's that simple. Losing is a story. Winning is what you're meant. And that's the way we are until all this stuff gets projected on us and we get programmed during our life.
Totally agree. I love the fact of the fact that you mentioned about the self-talk, and that's something that I learned about 1 year ago about myself, and it totally makes sense. You would never say, so let's say I failed an exam, right? A friend of mine would fail an exam. I will never say to a friend of mine, hey, you lazy XXX, like you failed the exam, you're lazy, you could have done better. I will try to encourage that person, right? By being a friend. But then the situation in reverse, if I fail the exam myself and I have that self-talk about myself, we as humans, we tend to have that negative self-talk, judging us negatively. And I invite everyone to do exactly what you just said, changing that self-talk from negative to positive. And it changed so much, and it really, really does. And for me, it made a huge difference. And that's one of the things that I tell to all my friends sometimes when they, when they talk bad about themselves. Change that. That is the absolute basic of everything. So it's true. And regarding your story, that was part of you, Shawn. that was part of you. Is like when I'm training to become bigger, but when I start training, I'm weak. That part, like you said, even the bully that, the guy who said, oh, what are you doing? You can never make this. Although is negative, it's part of you, it's part of your story, and it's part of your journey. So, yes.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. I don't look back with regret on anything.
You shouldn't.
That is so key. Like everything is a lesson, and everything happens for me. I see like so many of the things that have happened, everything that's happened in the past has put me here right now, and right now is where I want to be, and I'm proud of who I am, and I love who I am. So I don't want to go back and change anything. It's all lessons.
Yeah.
Some of those hardships have not only taught me lessons, but allowed me to connect on an empathetic level with all these people that I care about. Allows me to be seen and heard in such a way that they trust me and connect with me. So, I mean, there's nothing like I want to change in terms of trauma and seemingly negative things that have happened in my past. It's all happened for me, and I'm a better person because of it. The obstacle is the way. I don't want to avoid the obstacle. I don't want to find shortcuts under, over, around it. The obstacle is the way. The adversity makes me stronger. That makes me more resilient, makes me harder to kill. I am better as a result of the adversity. Just like going to the gym, I get stronger through it. You can just walk through the gym. Sure, like you can find some way to say you went to the gym and walk out, but that's avoiding the obstacle. And then there's some people that never go to the gym in the first place.
Yeah.
But then there's people that see it as an opportunity, and they take time and they get better at it, and it becomes something they enjoy. That adversity becomes something that they build their identity off of and become good at and proud of.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between people that are scared to even try. And that's where everything happens, is the willingness to try, to experiment. All the most successful people in the world are experimenters. They're willing to try, willing to test it out, willing to call it an experiment. And if there's no fail in their mind, just like Edison said, now I know what it's not.
Yeah.
It's not a failure. It's clarity. And it's building your resolve. It's building your identity.
100%. But my question to you is, you had the willingness to change things up, and the fact that you moved your study towards more health medicine and so on help you. You said you were in a terrible situation in your physically in your mid-20s, but then you kind of developed the knowledge to heal yourself both mentally and physically, because I think the two things are interconnected. And what was the switch for you to heal yourself physically as well?
To heal, I started down the path of healing myself physically in terms of not being obese anymore by just self-loathing. I mean, it was just being tired of being picked on. And there was points when I went to become, instead of being overweight, obese really, I was like 300 pounds. I went to 150 pounds as an anorexic.
Wow.
And then there was points when I was 220 pounds and ripped and muscular, but I was orthorexic, where I was going to the gym, for 4 hours a day and obsessed with it.
Yeah.
And at none of those points did I really like myself. I mean, physically, I may have been healthier, muscular and lean, but mentally I still wasn't there. And that's why, there's so many steps along my path for my journey, so many lessons of what real health is. And it's really that term, like like I told you, like after I got really fit, I still ended up having my whole immune system crash because I wasn't as mentally healthy as I should have been. I wasn't taking steps to control stress, to love myself, to have the passion that I should have for all the other aspects of my life, you know, to have hobbies and balance. And so like those were all lessons. And you know, I'm still working on it. Like I said, this year, thank you to COVID. Like it shut down my life. I was going to be traveling 300 days this year. I was going to be even more stressed, and yet I talk about energy and resilience and health and mindset and all these things. But I was just giving myself away, and I was pushing very hard, and I was still seeking achievement. And I knew all the hacks to like keep myself in the game and not be dead. But I wasn't applying like healthy approach like I would tell someone else that I care about to do. And it's just this year that I'm really working on going deep with myself by doing plant medicine, by doing guided therapy, by doing hypnotherapy, by listening to podcasts and taking time out and traveling, listening to music, and just enjoying nature and spending time with my pets, and all these things that I was taking for granted before.
Definitely. I think everyone should cover the basics, right? And then the biohacks, that's what I think. Like there are some basics, and then the biohacks are there to either help you out to heal like an underlying condition or bringing you to the next level. But they cannot fix, at least for the long term, things that will fall off if you don't cover the basics. If I sleep 2 hours a night, no matter how much coffee and mental performance supplements and oxygen time chamber, no matter what I do, I will still not be 100% myself. So like sleep, getting sunshine, grounding, and hugging people, and or hug a pet, for oxytocin. All those things are the basics, and then there is everything else to go to the next level. And yeah, I totally agree with you. I think people should be careful not to go to a phase of burnout. Everyone now, we're in a society where we should go. And, if you stop, you're a loser. Or if you take some, if you don't do something, you are a loser. But it is not. The go strategy is a super short-term strategy. Because once you go in burnout, and I'm talking here for personal experience, you can do self-love and everything else, and look after yourself, but it's gonna take a few months, optimistically, before to get the level you were before the burnout. So it's a very dangerous things to play with, and I personally try to be very careful with my let's call it chronic cortisol levels, right? If I had a busy week with work, and I'll try to remove, I'll try taking two approaches, and then you can tell me if I'm doing the right things or not. Approach number one, if I have a very stressful week with work or whatever, I'll try, to remove some stressors, either jumping, skipping a session at the gym. Exercising is a good stressor, but, if you are living a stressful week, month, and so on, can be, another stressor on top other stresses. And on the other hand, trying to lower my cortisol levels, maybe with plant medicine or with roots like Ashwagandha and so on. But here's the trick, and you can tell me, right? For example, for Ashwagandha, there is I'm talking about brands, but it all comes down to formulations and so on. I've used some brands of Ashwagandha and certain extract, and that did not work at all. And when I say it did not work, I mean that I took my cortisol test, through the day, before and after, no changes. But then by trying different, more powerful and, extract, that did work in so many ways, not just in lowering cortisol. And that's the things that make me frustrated. What people can do to identify a good extract or a good supplement from another one. Like, is there anything we can do, Shawn, to find those type of things?
Yeah, I'm a big fan, speaking of resilience, which now I think is kind of the most important aspect of health, is adaptogens. They help with that resilience. So Ashwagandha is an Indian Ayurvedic adaptogen, and Rhodiola is a Russian adaptogen, and ginseng is an Asian adaptogen, and maca is a South American adaptogen. And so all these amazing plants that have a legend and lore about them, and it's because they're so multifaceted. Adaptogens, like when you're too high or too low at something, will normalize you, your blood pressure, your blood sugar, improve your sleep, but also improve your focus and your energy. And so these compounds are incredibly helpful, and they do reduce feelings of stress and improve your stress resilience, your stress response. And so you're able to deal with more mental and physical adversity. So these compounds are incredible. So yes, I'm a big fan of ashwagandha. Probably my favorite form is sensoril. There's also KSM 66, but I lean towards sensoril. And then ashwagandha, rhodiola. I've been working on a form of rhodiola as well through N&B Nutrition called Rhodio Prime. That's got higher levels of some of the active compounds than any other rhodiola on the market. And there's just some great ones out there. And the reason I did that rhodiola was because I just felt there was a need. There was no branded rhodiola. So I'm a huge fan of those compounds, of all of them, and I cycle through them and use them pretty consistently.
Do you reckon that cycling is important when it comes to the? Okay, so for example,
I do. I feel that way. There's people ask me all the time, kind of like that endogenous versus exogenous discussion, like that when you take something exogenous outside of the body, how does that affect your endogenous production? So I don't like to use something just chronically and indefinitely. And I like the feeling of these adaptogens, but I just cycle through them. Like, 1 month I'll use ashwagandha, the next month I'll use rhodiola, like in the next month something else. And so I feel like that's the best approach, but it's something that you should experiment with, like I was talking about before, and see what works for you, your own bio-individuality. That's worked well for me, and it gives me an opportunity to tune in and see how I'm doing, or see how a different compound affects me at different points in my life. So I'm not just chronically using something indefinitely, and that becomes the new baseline.
Yeah, definitely. I think now we're lucky enough during this period of life that we have more way to track things as well. It's very good, and I invite people to pay attention when they try something new, to pay attention if they feel a change or not. And it might be that particular plant or whatever it is not working for them, or it might be is a different extract that is not working for them. But right now, like, we got things like, I don't know, for example, an Oura ring, right? And way more tests. We can measure a lot of biomarkers, and this is very exciting for me, because that gives you a very clear indication if something is working or not. You got like data that you can see, and you can see the effect that something is doing to your body. I personally love ashwagandha, and I have one problem with it though. If you take the right type of it tastes awful. It really tastes bad, and I try. Yeah.
You can just take capsules, but yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I tried with powder. I tried everything. Now I put it on salad, believe it or not, and it kind of, my salads, it kind of mask everything. But for me personally, I had a problem with REM sleep, or I used to have a problem with REM sleep until a while ago. And this is pretty recent. When I say pretty recent, it's like a couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks. My REM sleep was always short, no matter the time of the day. I've tried different things. The things that made the difference, and I'm not sure if it's a combo effect or it's just one or the other, is when I started supplementing the right type of ashwagandha and lion's mane on the same time. And I'm talking from 30 minutes REM sleep out of a 7-hour sleep cycle to 1 hour 50 minutes. So something and every night since I started taking those two. And this is exciting.
Since you started taking ashwagandha and what?
Lion's mane.
Oh, okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
cool.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's one or the other, doing the work on, or maybe both together, doing the work on REM sleep, but it's something that, it literally went from half an hour to nearly 2 hours of REM sleep, according to my Aura ring. Is great. So you say you're patenting a lot of formulation, right? And why do you think, I know the answer to this, but I just want to bring that to people, but why do you think there is the need for it?
Need to do patents?
Correct. And sort of, putting like a label of quality, basically, to certain ingredients.
Yeah, patents, when you work on ingredients, like I remember bringing raspberry ketones to the market, and I didn't have any patents, and it sold millions of bottles through tons of companies, was on Dr. Oz, all those kinds of things. I didn't make a single dime off of it, and that's part of it. When you do the work, and especially when you do research and you make sure it's safe with grass and toxicology, generally recognized as safe grass. It's an FDA distinction. I mean, this stuff, like literally each ingredient I've worked on will take anywhere from $300,000 to $1 million, will take 2 to 3 years to get to market. Wow. Because we're doing not only the initial research, like through studies and, seeing the feasibility, if it has the stability, the organoleptics, which just means taste and smell, if it has the bioavailability, if it can be made feasibly in a factory, all these things. And then, you do the studies. We'll do animal studies and cell studies and human studies. And then we do the toxicology work, and this grass generally recognized as safe work that the FDA deems. And you file these patents and you work with attorneys, and I mean, it takes a lot of time and money. So, you want to cover yourself, you want to do it in a wise way, but at the end of the day, you come out with an ingredient that's been proven to be safe. Yes. That has considerable data on it, and you know that it works. And to me, I'm only working on patenting ingredients that light me up, that are of interest to me. If I'm going to spend years on them, and working with a team, spending millions of dollars and literally spending every day of my life for, years and years and years, it better be an ingredient I'm interested in. I don't, there's ingredients that could make money with me, but I'm not interested in, then I'm not going to work on it. There's so many fascinating ingredients and pathways that excite me, anti-aging pathways and some of these things that I'm just like, I want to explore this. I want to take this myself. And so I know that's an important part of the process to keep this ingredient on path means I have to be in love with it. It has to be my baby. So they become my baby, and I nurture them and take care of them and bring them out into the world. That's great. And the reason I've asked you that question is for people to understand, the word that is behind it, but not just the word that is behind it, is that I'm just talking as a consumer, right? As a consumer, what I'm going to have is like something that I know that is proven to work and is bioavailable and so on,
compared to, and this is why it gets me upset. What gets me upset in the supplementing industry, something that's been extracted, encapsulated, maybe, and probably, you know, is not on a bioavailable form, or you know, there are so many components. That's what I'm trying to say. There are so many components involved for something to work. It has to be the right form, encapsulated correctly. The manufacturing process needs to have certain standards to work. And this is why I believe in the work that you do in patenting ingredients, because at the end, as a consumer, if I take X supplement or extract, I know that yes, there is science backing it up, but I know that it's the right form, bioavailable form, and so on and so forth. And you've done so many. And one that I'm very interested in to ask you is the theacrine. Did I pronounce it correct? So I'm going to start asking you what it is, and then I have a couple of questions for you regarding that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's in the methylxanthine family, which means, like, think caffeine, theobromine, theophylline, these kinds of ingredients. Also has theacrine, liberine, and methyliberine. And me and my partners, Dr. Hector Lopez, Dr. Tim Ziegenfuss, we patented theacrine, liberine, and methyliberine, which are now known as T-crine or teacrine, as you like to say, or also dynamine, which is methyliberine. And these ingredients differ from caffeine because they don't have the habituation effect or adaptation effect. So you're not as physiologically dependent upon them. And when you use them, they have the same effect every time. With caffeine, it has kind of diminishing returns when you chronically use it. At some point, you need that caffeine just to get to baseline of where you were without the caffeine. It's not like providing additional benefits, above and beyond your baseline anymore. It's just getting you to baseline. And so that's what's great about teacrine and dynamine, is that they don't have those effects, and they don't impair sleep as much, and they don't cause anxiety as much. And teacrine is more of a longer half-life, so it's more well suited to nootropic products and fat burners and things like that. While dynamine is a shorter half-life, very similar to caffeine, that's more well suited to pre-workouts and energy drinks and those kinds of things. And of course, they work well. We've shown in studies they have synergy with each other. Even with caffeine, you can do like a blend. And then we've also shown that alpha GPC has supportive synergy with it as well. That when you use the blend, you can use different ratios to elicit different effects and have different half-lives, essentially, that support each other.
That's great. With teacrine, will the effect... So I'm a big fan, I haven't tried teacrine in the past, but I'm a big fan of the synergistic effect between caffeine and L-theanine. Even though I think I'm sure there are some drawbacks in the long term, just because, caffeine and L-theanine, they give you that sort of like calm focus, calm lasting for a few hours focus. Is teacrine different in terms of like the ultimate effect that you take by taking teacrine from the synergistic effect?
It's similar as from that central nervous system stimulation, and also the adenosine impact like caffeine. It does have a dopamine effect that's a little bit different than caffeine. That's interesting. But yes, I love theanine. I love like the way it smooths out these stimulants. And so I'm a big fan of that. And we've actually shown that in research as well. So, and then the reason that the alpha GPC works is it's not only a nootropic, but the acetyl component contributes to acetylcholine, as does the choline component contributes to acetylcholine. And then the cholines contribute to the phospholipids in the brain. And so a lot of stimulants or nootropic agents burn through acetylcholine. And so that's why you see usually like CDP choline or alpha GPC be like a foundation of a nootropic stack. So we've found that has synergy. But just like those caffeine studies you're talking about, theanine has synergy with T-crine and dynamine as well. And so what's really cool is if you look at it, I love looking at the formulations that naturally occur in nature. If you look at green tea, you see it has EGCG. It has, which is an incredible antioxidant that improves blood flow and is anti-aging. And then you have the L-theanine component, which helps improve focus, which smooths out stimulation, smooths out the caffeine. Because we don't want to be stimulated. We want to be elevated and focused. And focus comes from clarity, not from overstimulation. So, and then you have the caffeine component that occurs in green tea. So you've got this blend of things that's improving blood flow, that's smoothing you out and helping you focus and center. And then you've got this ingredient that's helping lift you up. And this occurs naturally. And some other compounds that can occur in tea are T-crine and dynamine as well. So, which is theacrine and methyliberine. And so, like, I love looking at nature and seeing like all these components that are there, and the beauty of Mother Nature's formulation. The world's greatest formulator is actually Mother Nature, not me. So, it's really cool to look at.
I'm just gonna open a bracket, and I'm gonna close it very quickly. I like your face when you're talking about formulation. Totally changes. You nailed, one of your passion. Like, you seem like a different person, and it's so rewarding for me it's so amazing for me to see. I love when I see people pursuing their passion. So, close bracket. It's just so obvious, by seeing it in video. It is amazing, and it's true that Mother Nature provides us with a lot of things, but but looking at those things and those things, searching for those things that Mother Nature provides, that's a big job. But we got people like you for that, so that's great. Fortunately, I have a question regarding. I'm very, very curious, but doubtful at the same time about. Because the supplementation industry is, there are breakthroughs every month, but it can be for some people. I'm one of those. Can be a little bit overwhelming, right? Because the final result can be, I know people. I'm not one of those yet, but I know people who take 80 capsules a day, right? They've asked for, in this podcast, he says it takes 80 capsules a day. It can be a little bit overwhelming. So. And, I always do my research about solutions to this, right? Solution to capsule. And one of the first things that come out if you do research is transdermal, plasters, so those bands. Yeah. But I haven't specifically found any research of the effectiveness of transdermal delivery of certain nutrients. So this is why I was very curious to ask you, what's your opinion on transdermal delivery of certain nutrients?
It can absolutely work. It worked incredibly well. I mean, you're bypassing the liver, which is filtering or detoxifying these ingredients as it should. Obviously, just like intravenous, there can actually be not only more benefit in terms of bioavailability and delivery, but there can also be more danger when your liver is not filtering out and acting as a barrier, so to speak, towards all of these ingredients just making their way into your body. And not only the liver, but digestion too. So, that's a concern, is to look at the amount of the ingredient that you're getting and what else is being delivered with it. Is it safe? You can see that, like, for example, with testosterone that's delivered in a cream or gel, There's been incidents where the father rubbed up on a prepubescent girl or a baby or whatever, and it has disastrous effects on that child or baby that shouldn't be exposed to testosterone in those levels being absorbed. So, there's concerns, but it is an effective route. Potentially, you have to look at the delivery system. There's numerous ingredients that can work on that front. A lot of veterinary medicines are delivered that way, hormones delivered that way, and more things are being looked at transdermally. Actually, dihydroberberine, which I've worked on and patented, has about 5 to 6 times the bioavailability orally over berberine. It doesn't have the GI distress because it's basically what berberine converts into in the gut. It converts into dihydroberberine. So you're just delivering the active form. But interestingly, there's a study showing that when you deliver it transdermally, it had about 30 times the bioavailability.
Wow.
So a pretty dramatic difference there. So you can lower doses, again, pretty remarkably and still have significant benefit. I just say, be careful and know what you're doing there.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm not sure if I can ask you this question, but especially for patches and so on, do you have any brands that you could recommend? Or
not really.
Okay.
Not really. Like it's an area that I largely would just stick to something pharmaceutical. Like I really don't trust most of the products I've seen out there. There's nothing that's wowed me that I trust at this time. I'm not saying that there isn't something, but I haven't seen it.
I personally go where I can, and when my doctor gives me prescriptions for it through a compounding pharmacy to make the compounds and so on, and that way you're sure that it's kind of working. But it's great. Like transdermal really excites me because it can be an escape to all those pills. If you can just put a cream on a patch and have that same delivery of nutrients, right? And is very good. It's sort of like supplementing passively. Shawn, there are so many questions I'd like to ask you, but we over the hour, and I don't want to overtake your time. So, and I actually want to take the occasion again to thank you for being here. Again, I have so many questions, but I also like interactions between certain vitamins and so on. But I know that on your website and your Instagram and so on, you already have so much, it's literally an encyclopedia of informations. And I saw certain things like the anti-nutrients guide and so on. I said, yes, thank you. Someone who is talking about this stuff and putting all in a guide. So I know that a lot of my questions will have an answer on a lot of the guides that are on your website. But for people who want to reach you, and everyone who's listening, they definitely should. What's the best way to know about your work and your latest work?
Yeah, thank you. I'm at ShawnWells.com on that website that you were talking about, where I do have tons of guides and free information. Everything's free there. It's ShawnWells, ShawnWells.com. And then you can find me on all the social platforms with @Ingredientologist, a scientist of ingredients, Ingredientologist. So I appreciate you saying that. And I can always come back and do some more with you. We can do a follow-up episode for sure. So I have no problem with that.
Oh yeah, I would love it. Like like I said in the beginning, the supplementation aspect and ingredients, there needs to be clarity. And I think I'm well informed on the topic, but I'm still very confused. So I can imagine people who are just starting out, the confusion that there is out there. Thank you very much for being here. And sorry if I went a little bit over time. I really appreciate the fact that you took the time, and I'm looking forward for hopefully more interview with you in the future.
Sure, sounds good. All right. Thanks, brother.
Thank you very much. I'll see you soon.
Hey there, thanks for listening. Before we conclude, I'd like to remind you something very, very important. This episode, as well as this podcast in general, is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute medical advice. Listeners should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice for any medical condition they may have. Please, if you have any medical condition, consult your physician first. Disclaimer given, I would love for you to subscribe to this podcast and to leave me a review. That will help me a lot. We're just starting out. We have already a lot of great interviews down the line, which you don't want to miss. So hit the subscribe button so you will get notification for the next exciting episode. I'll see you next time.
Hey there! If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. In fact, I'm recording this from your phone right now. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many other platforms. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. And it's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. So go ahead, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.